All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 159, I think it is. And today, this is not a drill. This is not a drill. We have a new Power Rangers game coming out, and it actually looks good. The summer game thing, Summer Game Fest, I don't know what it's called, but anyway, it was Jeff Keighley. It was a bunch of game trailers is what it was. A live event where they just did a bunch of game trailers, and then every so often they'd have some Japanese people come out and speak far too much for their translators to understand what it was they were supposed to be translating, which is hilarious. No, they actually worked fine, but for Monster Hunter Wilds, the head of Monster Hunter Wilds comes out and just would speak in Japanese with a translator right next to him for like 5 minutes straight. And then the translator would just kind of give him this look of, "Hello, everybody, and thank you for letting me be here." And you could just see her in her head going, "What the hell did he say? That was a long thing to translate." Anyway, getting beside myself. There is a new Power Rangers beat 'em up coming out, and it actually looks really good. Which is not something that gets said often about Power Rangers games. If anyone has been watching this channel for more than 2.5 seconds, you guys know I'm a massive, massive Power Rangers fan. I started watching Power Rangers when it first came out. I watched it all the way up through Lightspeed Rescue because I didn't understand that Power Rangers was for children. And then I stopped watching it, and then I became an adult, and I got back into Power Rangers because as an adult, I'm allowed to like whatever the hell I want. And I like Power Rangers. I absolutely adore Power Rangers, but as far as like Power Rangers video games, the vast majority of Power Rangers video games, how can I say this politely, suck so hard they could give Hoover a run for its money. It is impressive how bad they are over and over and over again. And it didn't start off that way. Way back in the before times, in 94, when Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is brand spanking new, it actually had a beat 'em up game that came out for the Super Nintendo. It came out for everything. SNES, Sega Genesis, the Game Boy, the Game Gear, and Sega CD all had their own flavors of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And the reason it was a beat 'em up was because everything was a beat 'em up back then. Beat 'em ups were massively, massively, massively popular because home consoles were just starting to get to the point where you could port arcade games to home consoles and you wouldn't have to lose that much. And that was this really, really big thing. And in arcades, beat 'em ups were king because there was lots of cool colors. You could do lots of cool things, and they ate your quarters like Cookie Monster in a cookie dough factory. They just, all of it gone. So everything was beat 'em ups, and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was a beat 'em up, and it wasn't a bad game. Wasn't a great game, but it wasn't a bad game. It was relatively fun. It followed mostly the plot of the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, in as much as there was a plot for the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They were more, it was very serialized back then. They didn't really have overarching plots aside from the Green with Evil series. So that wasn't bad. The next year, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie was a phenomenon. They had a meet and greet for the Power Rangers in LA, and it actually shut down the city of LA because it backed up traffic so badly, the entire city shut down. That's how big Power Rangers was. They shut down Los Angeles. And of course, they made Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, the video game, and it was another beat 'em up, and it technically was slightly better than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. None of these games were groundbreaking or anything, but it did do something interesting where The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie game, actually had two different planes you could fight on. You had a close to the screen and a far away from the screen, or like a higher and lower area, which wasn't something that beat 'em ups were doing at that point. Like, everything was all on the same plane for the most part. And it did make that particular game kind of unique. It still wasn't a great game. Was it a bad game? But it wasn't a great game, and it came out for everything aside from Sega CD. That same year, probably one of the best Power Rangers games came out. It's called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Fighting Edition. And the game itself was a Street Fighter clone. No one is trying to say that it wasn't a Street Fighter clone. However, it actually used the same engine that would later be used for a Japanese-only game called Gundam Wing Endless Duel, which a lot of people argue is possibly the best fighting game on the Super Nintendo that has ever been released. It was such a phenomenally amazing game. Each one of the different characters played very differently. There was all these cool things. The game looked freaking gorgeous. So Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Fighting Edition, was the kind of first attempt by Natsume, who had actually made the other two beat 'em up games as well. But this is their first attempt at a fighting game versus a beat 'em up, and again, it turned into something really amazing. And then after that, we just got a lot of really bad shit. There was Power Rangers Zero Battle Racers, which was a kart racing game, but instead of karts, you were on the Zeo Cycles. If anyone's trying to figure out what the Zeo Cycles are, they were something that showed up at Power Rangers Zeo for like one episode, maybe. It was like part of an episode, because in Ohranger, which is the Sentai series that Zeo was based on, they actually used them a little bit more. Not a lot, but a little bit more. And so that was just a really bad Mario Kart clone. And then we had Power Rangers Zeo Full Tilt Battle Pinball, and Power Rangers Zeo versus the Machine Empire, and none of them were good. And then everything after that, for the most part, the thing that tended to happen to Power Rangers games, they tended to be some kind of a beat 'em up style game, because it's a they're martial artists, so they have to punch and kick everything to win. And each one just got progressively worse than the last one. We had Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, Wild Force, Ninja Storm, which Natsume is making a lot of these. Dino Thunder, SPD. Finally, they came out with Power Rangers Super Legends, which was actually published by Disney Interactive Studios, because they owned Power Rangers at the time. And it's really, really bad. Came out on Nintendo DS, PS2, and Windows, and all three were bad. The Windows port was the worst. And then they had a bunch of games made specifically by Bandai, for Bandai Namco, for the Disney era Power Rangers, or not the Neo Saban era Power Rangers, sorry. So Samurai, Super Samurai, Megaforce, Super Megaforce, they all really sucked. They all came out on different platforms too. Like Samurai was Wii and Nintendo DS, Super Samurai was 360, and then Megaforce and Super Megaforce were 3DS. Then they started coming out with Power Rangers mobile games, which sucked. Then they came out with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Mega Battles, which was a beat 'em up that used this hyper, almost chibi style art, but used sound clips from the actual Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and that was god-awful. And then the very next Power Rangers game we got is a game that I still play from time to time. It's called Power Rangers Legacy Wars. It was created by Enway, who are the only people that seem to be able to make a decent Power Rangers game in the past, 20 years. Like I said, for a while, Natsume was making all the Power Rangers games, and they just were really, really bad. Power Rangers Legacy War is a one-on-one fighting game on mobile. When it first came out, it was really awesome and super fun. I played it for, I think I didn't get started until a year after it came out. But I played it for about 2 years ish. I started my own guild on it. I can't remember what they call guilds on that, but I still have that guild. Nobody in the guild other than me has logged on in like 4 years. But the thing about it is it's a gotcha game. And when it first came out, there was a small enough roster of fighters that, in addition to having to unlock fighters via gotcha stuff, you also have to unlock all of their abilities and all their power-ups, and literally everything is unlocked via gotcha mechanics, most of which you have to pay for. It's a free-to-play game, but you have to buy most of the gotcha stuff. And so the first couple years, you could use what were referred to as free characters you could get without paying for anything. You just had to play it long enough to get the stuff. You could use free characters and get all the way to the top echelons without a significant amount of work and luck. Nowadays, it's 100% pay to play, or pay to win, because the newer the character, the more powerful they are. And what invariably happens to every single new character is when a new character launches, they are super broken. Like everything that they do, they'll be able to combo in ways that other characters can't. They'll be able to just, all of their attacks will hurt really hard. They'll be able to hit from the other side of the screen. 9 times out of 10, they will have no startup animations, so there's no way to counter them. And they're always massively powerful. And they stay that way for a couple of months until they go from the premium tier, where the only way you can get them is to pay for them. And then they go to the free tier, and then they always will get a balancing patch when they go free that makes them suck. So Legacy Wars, no longer a great game at the high level stuff. If you're at the mid to low level stuff, it doesn't matter who you use. Just push buttons until you win. And the only strategy comes in at really, really high level stuff. So Legacy Wars was actually a really good game until the roster got so big and they kept releasing broken characters and then fixing them after you could get them for free. And then a couple years later, Enway released a game called Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, which is a more traditional fighting game, very similar to Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. And it's not on mobile. It's on every platform ever. I think it started on Steam, but now you can get it everywhere. It's on PS Plus. So if you have a PlayStation Plus subscription, you can play the base game for free. And it's actually a really good fighting game. It's a 3-person tag fighting game, and I think they have like 23 or 25 some odd characters that you can choose from, and it's great. It's super fun. They've had a few kind of like official tournaments, like professional tournaments, but hasn't really gone anywhere since then. They haven't released a new Ranger or anything, or a new player in I think like a year at this point. So it's kind of on life support, but it's still a fun game. And so those have been like the only worthwhile Power Rangers games we have gotten were a couple of mediocre but not bad beat 'em ups in the mid 90s, and then a mobile game which is almost unplayable at high levels unless you pay hundreds of dollars, and a fighting game that's fun but not massively complicated. And so it starts to lose its traction relatively quickly. So the fact that we're getting a brand new, Power Rangers game. By the way, the game is called Rita's Rewind. I have no idea why it's called Rita's Rewind, but it is basically retelling the old school Mighty Morphin Power Rangers story. With Rita and, Jason and Zach and all that stuff. It looks amazing. Like the beat 'em up sections look really, really cool. They have sections where you're riding on bikes of some sort, which were a thing. Like the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers did have bikes, but I think they almost never used them. So if I remember correctly, I think the three, like red, blue, and black got actual bikes, and then yellow and pink were in sidecars, if I remember correctly. It's been a really long time. Feel free to correct me in the comments below. But then in addition to that, they have these like bike section things, and they also have Megazord section things where you're if you ever played the Goemon games for Super Nintendo, he had a giant robot thing, and you used it in first person. That was kind of how it worked. They also have like shooter sections where you're all the Rangers are in a thing, and you're just moving a cursor around to shoot stuff, like a shooting gallery type thing. Like the whole thing just looks great. Everything about it looks really, really cool. I am massively pumped up about it because, again, I'm a massive Power Rangers fan. And it looks like they've put a lot of work into it. Because that's one of the biggest issues with most of the Power Rangers games that have come out for the past 20 years is they don't put any effort into them. Like, in general, like the fighting portions of most of the games will have one or two buttons that you need to use for the entire game. The models will generally look like shit. The stories are either they just copy the stories from the TV show but butcher them because it's hard to tell an entire television show story in a video game that only lasts a couple hours. And yeah, so I'm excited about this. If it turns out that this is another really bad Power Rangers game, I will cry myself to sleep for a year. But everything that has been done so far, it looks really good. And by everything that's been done, I mean everything has been shown so far, which is a single trailer at Summer Games Fest. It looks really good. I'm excited about it. So I've included a link to the Steam page. Please, even if you don't like Power Rangers, go there, wishlist it. Because wishlisting a game is a massive, massive deal on Steam because the market is so huge on Steam that for a game to be seen by anyone, it has to either have a very large marketing budget and therefore people can find it through commercials and stuff and then search for it, or if it gets a shit ton of wish lists, it will be recommended on people's feeds and stuff like that for them to see it. Again, there's a distinct possibility this game is going to suck. But even if it does suck at launch, if enough people pick it up, maybe that'll be enough to convince the developers to turn it into a good game. Or, and here's the crazy thought, maybe it'll be a good game when it launches. It has happened. There are new beat-em-up games that are actually fun to play. Like, I think it's called Shredder's Revenge. It was a brand new beat-em-up game that was really, really well received and everybody loved it. There's been some re-releases of old beat-up games. Like there was a Turtles collection that included Turtles in Time and a bunch of the other beat-em-up games. And those are still fun to play today. So I don't think it's impossible. I think, Streets of Rage 4 came out and it was received relatively well. It was not the best received game ever, but it wasn't a bad game. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I mean, the Scott Pilgrim game was pretty well received, and that was a beat 'em up. So beat 'em ups are still fun. I love beat 'em ups. They're super super fun games. So yeah, I really, really want this to be a good game. Please. Pretty please. Anyway, there's a link to the Steam page. Wishlist it for me. Just, even if you don't like that, wishlist it for me. By the way, I have no connection to the company that's making this. I have not been given any special stuff. I'm not getting a free game out of this. Nothing. I'm just a big Power Rangers fan. So... feel free to not worry that this is me selling my soul for a video game. First of all, I don't have much of a soul left. I worked in retail. And the bit of my soul that does still exist is not worth anything. Again, retail. But yeah, I'm excited about this. I hope this is mildly exciting to you guys. So yeah. Anyway, it's all for me today. I will see you guys then the next time. All right? Bye-bye.